Hey, lease here, pay here dealers. Did you know TaxMax can easily help your dealership boost down payments in the first quarter? Yes, it's true and very simple. TaxMax provides the lease here, pay here dealer the ability to put a file and drive button on their website and your social media pages. While customers are looking at your inventory during tax time, they can easily click on the file and drive button to file their taxes directly with TaxMax, all from their phone. When the same day tax refund advance is released, the refund is sent to the dealership first to be used as a large down payment. There is no risk, and the dealership doesn't have to lift a finger. You will have customers arriving at your dealership to pick up their tax refund, pick out the car they want to lease, provide you with a large down payment, and then drive off. It's that simple. Go to taxmax.com today to join the thousands of dealers who are maximizing their tax season. Ask about our 50% off discount on our VIP package. That's taxmax.com. And remember, nobody gets you more down payment money than TaxMax.
Do you currently own a reinsurance company or thinking about starting one? Reinsurance is one of the greatest ways to reduce risk and build long-term wealth. But who's your partner? Welcome to the Preferred Dealer Solutions family of companies, your one-stop shop for all things reinsurance. Preferred Dealer Solutions is our consulting company. We build custom programs for lease here, pay here, buy here, pay here, retail dealers, and independent finance companies. Our goal at Preferred is to ensure growth, increase profitability, and create long-term loyalty through our portfolio of reinsurable products. Precision Claims is more than your standard claims administration company. We build custom claims processes for each individual client and provide you the claims data, reporting, and quota share billing that is important to your operation. Preferred Reinsurance is our accounting company. We provide our clients with monthly sessions and financial statements to ensure you have the data you need to make informed decisions. Preferred Dealer Solutions. Reinsurance done right.
Hey, and welcome back to sunny San Diego. We're at the LHPH Summit here, hosted by LHPH Capital. And as you can tell, we got a bustling crowd in the background. And so I'm having a chance to meet Dan Grosvenor today. We had a chance to sit in on your session. Dan's just coming off the stage, having had a chat with Tim Lawrence, the CEO at LHPH Capital. And it's fascinating, Dan. I've known you on social media for some time. I hear your name, Bill Elizondo, and some of the others mention your name here and there. But I'm glad to have a chance to sit and chat. And as we talked about, we're just going to chat informally. I'm going to get a chance to know you here and a little bit of your background, especially obviously as it relates to your exposure to leasing, right? But maybe take us back first. One of the things I'd enjoy hearing is about how you win and how you found yourself in the automotive space, you know, kind of when that all happened, and then we'll work our way toward leasing.
Yeah, sure. So we've been in business for about 26 years. My brother and I started this business, shared a lot with a guy who did this crazy concept that where he would buy a car for about $500.
Yeah.
Get $500 down, sell it for $29.95, no interest.
Yep.
Keep the record of it on a folder on each file.
Yeah.
The payments were due the same time for everybody each month, and that's so we only had to do collections twice a month.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, the cars we were selling were very low end, and just it turned out we weren't really helping people, and it wasn't fun.
Right.
We'd sell 15 cars over the weekend, and we'd have 6 ticked off people on Monday, and it just became a grind. So I started getting more into indirect lenders and like credit acceptance and some of the United Auto Credit, back in those days, and just kind of grew it from there to where we've always had a buy here, pay here portfolio, but depending on the kind of how the market shifted. Would depend on what our mix was between in-house and so I always play the fence. I always play both sides of that fence.
Sure. I heard you talk about the thing about, buy a car for $500 and get a $500 down payment. We hear dealers still out there come around the social media circles, Facebook, and ask about doing that. I suppose you could still do that if you want to sell about 7 cars a year, right? It's just not much opportunity.
Or get $8,000 down.
Right. Yeah, about 7 times a year. So, so it just is kind of a nature of how the world has shifted. And we see that progression, obviously, and you find that, and I'm hearing something in your situation. You talk immediately about helping people. I heard you talk about that on the stage, that it's important to you. Of course, you're going to have to take care of yourself as a dealer, and you're going to make your living. But in doing that, you it's important to you that you make the consumer better. What was the phrasing you used as part of your?
Well, so one of our core values is we leave people better than we found them.
Good, nice.
And so you can't be in this business for, can you make a lot of money for a short period of time
Right.
if you don't have that mindset? Absolutely. But where's the longevity there?
Yeah, good.
We're in a town of we're in St. Louis, so we're in a town of just under 3 million people.
Wow.
So we can skin the sheep multiple times, but eventually it's gonna come back around.
Thank you for using that expression. I'm originally from Oklahoma. When I use that expression, people don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I appreciate that. It's interesting to hear you talk about that, especially you've had a lot of success. You've been at it a good while, and I heard you say you have a mixed business. You've got about half your business now is independent retail. It's going to third-party lenders, and then you keep about half of it in-house.
Yeah, and that's actually been a pretty dramatic shift over this year. It was only about 14% of our business in 2022 was in-house.
Okay.
And it's up to 47% in 2023.
Oh, wow.
Last month was 55%.
Okay.
A lot of these indirect subprime lenders are just pulling out of our space, are pulling out of that space. Which is bad news if you're a dealer that just does nothing but indirect lending, subprime financing.
Sure.
It's going to be a little difficult.
You're still going to take that business if it's there. It's just that we're seeing less and less of that. And we are seeing a shift. And, you've been around the business. I was in the business through the 2008 period. So we saw, and I've seen it, I've talked about it. And you don't know me well enough to know that I've done coaching in the buy here, pay here space and been exposed to leasing in the same way over the years. And so having been a dealer myself through the 2008 period, we've just seen across my career, lenders, shrink. They come in, they kind of shrink back out of that, depending on delinquency numbers or whatever else. And so we're at a time when people are pulling back, and here we are at the leasing summit, so to speak, and talking about why it makes sense if somebody's hearing our voice and is not currently in self-financing, buy here, pay here, or lease here, pay here. I heard you talk about this outlook on the shift in the economy and the shift in lending and how that's probably going to impact dealers out there. I share that, by the way. I see the same opportunity. So you might speak to that, what you see in terms of opportunity for our segment. Yeah. So in the last 6 months, I've had three subprime lenders that have just pulled out of, partners with us. Nothing we did. It's just they across the board. Yeah. They no longer originating loans. Yep. BMO Harris no longer is in the auto space. Okay. Capital One went from being the number one subprime being 620 and below, the number one subprime lender in the country, in a quarter dropped 11%, and as of last quarter was number 3. So Capital One can do whatever they choose to do. Yeah, that was a conscious decision for them to pull back. Yeah. Wells Fargo is all but out of subprime lending. Right. So people don't stop driving. Sure. And so you and I saw it happen in 2008, which is, we'll take that business that Wells Fargo and Capital One doesn't want. So now we have a much better customer to serve. Sure. And by better, you typically are going to see maybe a little more job time. They may have higher income. There's still a tough credit score situation, but their qualifications in terms of their stability and a lot of other factors would be stronger. Yep. So it's favorable for that. And I have kind of, sort of half jokingly over the years, people ask for, my outlook, and it's kind of a boring answer. I said, it's probably going to stay the same, right? Our industry is probably going to stay the same. Right. And part of that's based on this idea that most of the dealers that we work with, even if they had double the opportunity tomorrow, they can't afford to fund it. Yeah. Because of funding, access. Yeah. So that's a factor. And that's part of why I say it's probably going to stay about the same. But for those who are in a position to access capital and can go out there and build, there's going to be a nice building opportunity in the coming years. Every indication is that's where we're headed into, right? And that's part of the reason why we've always done the retail as well. So it does a couple of things. One, it really lets me serve the consumer better. Sure. Because we're able to really pick what option really fits their needs the best. Right. If I only had one option, and how can I fully take care of the consumer? In doing that, it allowed me to build up enough capital personally to now we've got a little bit of dry powder. Now we're getting to the point where we're going to have to start sourcing for capital. Yeah. And you hope it's going to be there tomorrow. Right. Because if the subprime lenders are pulling out, because and I don't have a big portfolio right now. We have a portfolio, but it's not massive, multiple thousands. Sure. So I don't have to go through that maybe turmoil that some of the current more established, or I guess more seasoned portfolios
are going to have to go through.
Sure.
So I believe my business will definitely go up, and we've opened up 2 new stores in the last 14 months when the others around us are closing.
Right.
Now, is it the right move? I don't know. I'm swimming upstream.
It looks smart from over here.
So, and I guess we can sit down next year and we can check in again and say what happened. But,
no, I think it's nice to have more opportunity, I think, to be in that position. And we anticipate that funding is going to be available. It's more a question of what we pay for it, like who's got the appetite, right? And who's going to be able to step in there and provide that funding. But I want to go back to the thing about, helping folks, because I think you've met enough dealers in your career. Like we obviously meet people, and I find it interesting that not everybody shares that outlook, this idea that we should have some level of caring about the consumer that we serve. It's like, and so I want to really kind of expand on that. Like, where does that come from for you? Why not? Why care about the success of the consumer?
Well, and our business is a punchline for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody shares that.
Sure.
That we're used car salesmen, right? Well, it's like I said earlier, it's you can't have longevity,
right?
If you don't. And I sleep very well at night.
Yeah.
I feel good about what we do. We're compliant and all these things that takes a lot of work to do that.
Yeah.
Other than it's just the right thing to do. Even if you don't feel that way, and it's all about the money for you.
Yeah.
You can't have a long-term success if you're just not doing right by people.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about the long game. Some of the work that Michelle and I do and working with coaching with clients, we're asking them to consider on the front end of if they're new in business, we want them to think about what it looks like to play that long game, that longevity. And especially it seems like the smaller the market is, the more important that becomes,
for sure.
Right? To not burn through that customer base and make sure you earn that customer and have a repeat customer for many years and referrals and all the things that go along with that. But it's just interesting that we even have to talk about that out loud. Like you would think that would be understood. And one of the things we enjoy doing is trying to help dealers prove that out so that they can see. Look,
one of the things I'll add to that is as you grow, because again, we've got 3 stores now, and you have to bring in, management in the middle to do that. So you really have to watch, and it's hard to vet, the folks out. Do they share the same long-term philosophies, or is this just a job for a period of time where they can squeeze the lime and get out?
Yeah.
So you've really got to watch your people as well, that they share the same values.
Well, yeah, because every bit of language they have out there on the front line with a customer, it's got to reflect that long-term outlook. Something I started talking about some time ago, and we probably need to update it. I started talking about what I would call a 10-year approach to every customer. When you think about, you meet a customer today and you got a situation, if you think about, if this customer is still going to be with me 10 years from now, how does that look like? How do I navigate today if I'm thinking long-term in terms of what we do? So I'm hearing that, that's the approach that you bring. And obviously we see the challenge of making sure that all the people across the team share that outlook, and that's obviously going to affect all these things that we're talking about.
And it's really tough with a subprime customer to keep that mindset of this is how we pay our bills and how we feed our family,
right?
And not have that negative, those people or they're, because it's, especially in like your service departments, because they get the worst of it.
Yeah,
their phone rings not because something happened good to that person that morning.
True. Yeah.
And so that's a struggle too, is to keep that.
Yeah.
In fact, I just did an exercise with them. If we have a moment, I wanted to show you.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
So what I did in the sales meeting, the service meeting, is I went in because we kind of had that shift kind of happen and talking about these people, this, that, and the other. So you walk in. Sorry, I'm making noise here. Wasn't expecting.
Oh yeah, you're good.
That's totally okay.
So I walk in and you walk into the room and say, okay, who wants this $100 bill? All the hands go up.
Right.
Dan's going to give $100 away, right? And you say, okay, now who wants it? All the hands went up.
Yeah.
Put it on the floor. Step on it.
Yeah.
Who wants this $100 bill still?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Pour a little coffee on it. Who wants this $100 bill? They all still want the $100 bill. It's the same $100 bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may not be as crisp and clean and pristine, but it's the same $100 bill. So again, this is how we feed our family and how we build our business and build our reputation within the community.
Nice.
So
I love the analogy. Yeah, that's really strong.
Yeah.
So let's back up and talk a little bit about how you came to intersect with leasing. When did that come into your circle, and what made you make the decision to go that direction?
So we were we've known LHPH Capital, Tim and all those, and Terry and all those guys for a long time. When they first started kind of getting into this business, they actually opened up their offices for a few years. me and a few other dealers would do our annual offsite planning sessions in their office.
Oh, nice.
And so they hosted it for us. It was actually really a neat thing they did for us. And Tim's been on me. Okay, switch from buy here, pay here to leasing.
Oh,
and
sure.
This, that, and the other. I have some other friends that are just excessively larger than I am in this space, and I've just watched how it has transformed their business. And they kept saying, "Well, Dan, you get the car back." They're like, "That's the same customer, but you put them in a higher ACV car." I'm like, "How does that math work?"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I follow.
And they're like, "Well, you get the car back." I'm like, "I've seen these cars. I don't want these cars back."
Good.
Now, again, I'm right at a year into it.
Huh?
And so we haven't reached that cycle where we're going to start recycling them.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to.
We're going to have you back.
We'll see.
Yeah.
how that plays out. But
Yeah.
But it's worked for them. So it's a little bit of leap of faith of watching other people do it.
Yeah.
And then also, and I mentioned it when I was talking to Tim. The ACV of these vehicles have gotten so high. And so what do you do? And I know you talk about it is what do you do? Do you extend the term?
Right.
Well,
Right.
That doesn't work for anybody.
Sure.
Do you get more down payment? Well, if you could do that, you'd have done it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And so my biggest push for leasing is the fact that I can still put somebody in a payment that fits their budget.
Right.
And hopefully on the back end, it works out for us.
Yeah. And I've said to others here today, we talked about with Bill in the morning show this today, that we're not here to sell leasing for anybody. We feel strongly that especially dealers that are new or dealers that are facing a pivot, they really should take a hard look at leasing. There's several benefits that they need to be aware of. Some of them you've touched on here. And so we just think it's important for folks to become familiar with how that can work, because in certain models, it can make a lot of sense. And I think as we move up in terms of cost of car, then that even starts to kind of make the thing even look more favorable. If we're spending more to buy a car, we're spending more to recondition it, then we certainly don't want to have to come out of pocket with a bunch of sales tax, which I heard you speak to on the front end. So anything we can do to alleviate and spread those costs is going to be beneficial. And
it depends on the state you're in as to how the tax landscape works, where the regulation works, all these other things. Can you get capital? Not everybody offers capital in this space either. So it's definitely not a one. Well, and so I work with one of the attorneys in this space, and he was telling me the other day, he goes, I've got people all the time, because it's kind of leasing is kind of a buzzword. He's like, hey, I want to get into leasing. Or why do you want to get into leasing?
Right.
They can't answer that question. They don't know why.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of education that needs to happen before you really make that plunge.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been working with the team at LHPH Capital and doing some of that math and really breaking that down. And some of what we've learned has been fascinating. Like they've really been accommodating and helping me create some comparative models. And we look for us to be releasing some of that information in the coming weeks and months here, because it tells a story that's compelling, especially when I think about, what I can share so far is that, I'm a numbers guy. I'm crunching spreadsheets all the time, and we help dealers who are getting in the business kind of anticipate capital needs and when's it going to get positive and all this. So we're crunching numbers all the time. When I get inside that and I really kind of stack apples to apples as well as I can in terms of cost of car, down payment, all those things, it's interesting to see how that shakes out. And we all understand, and buy here, pay here, most dealers doing any volume at all are going to have a related finance company. Obviously, you can avoid that. But really what I started to see in the modeling in a way that hadn't, in my 20 plus years of being around consulting and working with the kind of stuff, I'd seen the numbers really laid out in the way that we're being able to do, collaboratively here. And what it really illustrates to me is that in that retail installment contract, as a buy here, pay here dealer, you would have all your gross profit on the front end. You would have the biggest part of your interest earnings on the front end of the contract. And so it's at a time that you're starved for cash, you're having the greatest demands on your income tax, right? And so those things really start to show up in that. And so again, I just think people ought to really have a good look at leasing, because it can make a lot of sense. There's a lot of factors there. And I heard you touch on software. We don't need to mention names of software companies, but it's like there are some software providers that can, help make that available.
It is a big limitation.
It is.
There's not as many of those available as there is in the in-house buy here.
Yeah, and we're painfully aware sometimes of the limitations that are there. But that's one of the things that we see as an opportunity. But we certainly recognize that there's tremendous opportunity ahead for dealers who are doing self-financing. We think you sound like you're in a great position to do that. We do see that being favorable, and we see that the access to capital is going to be big factor,
Right.
as always. But those who are in a position to access that capital have a chance to really grow and to probably be pretty selective, in their applications,
Yeah.
right? In terms of their actual underwriting, have a chance to be pretty selective and build an even healthier portfolio.
Because that's a discussion I'm having with a lot of guys that have these mature portfolios is because they're getting hit with the charge-offs and the delinquencies and that kind of thing, is to, how do you slow your growth and cutting out that bottom customer? Because if the better customers coming from the Capital Ones and Wells Fargos of the world, well, maybe you make it harder for that career credit criminal. That's the most negative you'll hear me talk about our customers. But some people are really out to get you, right? And have no intention.
I call them troublemakers
to do right by you, right? I mean, but that's what, 5%.
It's small. Yeah, it's a small number. We talk about it. We know that's real, but I think what that does is give you a chance to make that shift. And so your underwriting, you can make those adjustments, and hopefully you'll have that opportunity and see a better qualified applicant. So sometimes it's more business, sometimes it's better business. Right?
I'm excited.
For sure. Well, it sounds like a good opportunity. So we can wrap up there. I think Michelle's giving me a sign that we're
either that or she's hungry. I'm not.
Yeah, sure. That may be it. Maybe it's a lunchtime thing. But we appreciate you making time to talk, Dan, and thrilled to hear especially about your outlook on the customer. And we wish you lots of luck, and we're happy to help with that anytime we can.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. You bet.
I do. Yeah.
Every single time you sell a car, your customer has to purchase insurance, and oftentimes they purchase GAP and/or a service contract. That money bypasses you and goes straight to a third-party vendor. Why not collect it instead? We've helped hundreds of dealers set up their very own reinsurance company and offer their own warranties, service contracts, GAP, and collateral protection insurance. Learn more from Dealer Re. We have the longest running track record in our space, not just for success, but for compliance. We are a faith-based company. We are a family-owned and operated business. We are the gold standard of reinsurance. Check out dealerre.com today.
Need help with accounting and taxes? Want to increase efficiency with your collections team? Does your sales team need improvement over the phone? What if you could gain better exposure through social media? Wondering if your documents are compliant? What is reinsurance? Get access to all these topics and more with our all-inclusive digital platform that dealers of all sizes are using nationwide.